وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك سيدنا Muhammad. So this is episode number 18 of Fiqh of Marriage, and maybe the last one, inshallah. I want to say something in the beginning of the lesson, then after that, the rest of the lesson, I will try to summarize the whole journey in few minutes, inshallah. Then I will open the Q&A session, inshallah. One brother came to me last week, and he said there's few brothers, they complain about me, about the series. So I say, what's that? They said, you always in women's side. You never talk about men and qawama and obedience. So honestly, I thought I'm just fair and speak about both sides. But feedback, brothers and sisters, is always important. I'll say from this lesson here, if you have anything to say to me, please come to me and say it frankly. Don't worry, I'll not be angry at all. I'm very happy with any feedback. What I don't like, that you don't like something and you hide it in yourself. Don't fear human being. It just feedback is very, very important. We are a human being. Either in this lesson, in any of my lessons, I ask all brothers and sisters, if you have any feedback, if you have any criticism, please say, come to me and say it frankly, don't worry. Wallahi, I will be very, very happy with that feedback. So, I will say a few words here about qawama, and then we move to summarize the journey in few minutes, inshallah. I thought I talk about qawama in this series. You can come back to the series before. I didn't listen to any episode I upload, so maybe I forget. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala placed qawama in the shoulder of men. What does qawama mean? Qawama means a leadership, means responsibility. At every single institution in this dunya need a final decision, need one person that he will take the final decision after shura. And Islam gives that responsibility to the men. Why? Is that because men is better than women in the sight of Allah? No. In the hereafter, Allah looks at taqwa, not gender, only taqwa. But Allah tabarak wa ta'ala placed qawama, as He said in Surah An-Nisa, وَبِمَا أَنفَقُوا مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ. Because two things. Reason number one, men, according to Sharia, responsible for all the financial responsibilities in marriage. Man is the one who is in charge of accommodation, of dowry, of provision, of bills. All the financial responsibilities in the shoulder of man. That's why, logically, the qawama, the leadership, in his hand. The second also reason, بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ, means Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala created man and woman different, because every one of them has role in this life. Women, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, in this life tested them. They will go through a lot of things. The men, they will never go through it. For example, the cycle month, or the pregnancy, or the childbirth, or breastfeeding. It's a lot of burden, and physical and emotional burden. So because of that, Sharia lifted this responsibility, financial responsibility, outside duty, to the men. And for that, Allah gave men that leadership. Leadership doesn't mean dictatorship. Leadership for men, because it's a message for every man, should be the first in spending, the first in sacrifice, the first in protecting your wife from family's injustice, the first to apologize if you are wrong, the first to protect the family. So it's a type of responsibility. So for all my dear daughters and sisters, in Islam, respect qawama of the men. This qawama, Allah said, bil ma'roof. If it's reasonable, if it's in halal, if it's not in haram or something beyond that. Because this is how our ship here in this dunya, our institution will be safe. Every institution have a captain for the final decision. In the rest of this, I try to go through just some headings or what I remember we said in this series. And this series is just, I talk in the beginning, it's not about fiqh as our series in fiqh before. No, it's more about advice, more about a lot of wisdom from long experience to all my daughters and sons who want to get married. Inshallah, may Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala bless every one of you with a pious spouse. We start our journey from the beginning when we say why we get married. We said marriage in Islam is something very big. Allah called the marriage contract mithaqan ghalidha, heavy covenant. Marriage is not you marry because you don't want to feel lonely, because you want someone to feel you, because no, marriage in Islam is a sakina, is inner peace. You not find that inner peace without that marriage. Marriage in Islam is mawadda wa rahma, is love and mercy. Marriage in Islam is you will live with someone will help you in the path of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Marriage in Islam is produce a generation that they are very proud that they are Muslim and they will contribute to the deen of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And after that we'll go to our second station. Are you ready for marriage? Which I thought is one of the most important topics in marriage. Are you ready? Because many youth nowadays, when they are financially ready or they just get their first job, they thought, oh, I'm ready because I'm financially ready. That's not true. We talk about 4 dimensions of readiness, about financial dimension, which is obvious, spiritual dimension. What's the marriage in Islam? Some basic fiqh about Islam. Why you marry? You marry someone just to good look in your wedding night, or marry someone to be a father or mother, to be a parent to your children. Then we talk about emotional readiness. Can you control your anger? Can you apologize if you are wrong? This is very important, because if you can't control your anger or can't apologize, if you exploit in any small things, you can't get married. So try to fix yourself first and then be ready. We talk about social readiness. Can you communicate? Can you listen? Can you share decisions? Can you share space? This all is, we live in a time there's a lot of lack of maturity. So to explain readiness very well, that's very important. Then we move after that to how to look. What do you look for in your spouse? We said emphasize the religion and character. Because Islam is not against to look for good looking, good look for attraction, for beauty. That's all obvious because we are human beings. But Islam just emphasized, you don't forget, beauty can fade, status can disappear, but character and religion is what will stay. So always emphasize, prioritize this when you look for your spouse. You don't look for someone just look good in your wedding night. You look for a parent for your children. We said in that stage is that very important advice, that when you look for your spouse or your potential, put your mind in front seat and your heart in the back seat. Think rationally. Don't say, I feel that, I don't feel. It's not about feeling. It's about to know your non-negotiables very well, to know what you want very well, and to think rationally. After marriage, you can put your heart in the front seat. After that, we talk about how can we find this potential. We talk about the halal way and the haram way. Keep always public. Not DMs, not anything private, not anything secret, not If you start with your marriage with haram, Allah will not put barakah in that marriage. So start with something in light, in public. Knock the door, come from the door, not from the window. Then after that, we talk about engagement and istikhara. He said engagement, khitbah, is not a nikah. You are not husband and wife. You are not mahram to each other. It's just a time to know each other more, where your parents are knowing about this. So try to discover your spouse more here, your potential. We talk about istikhara. We said there is always istishara and then istikhara. Istishara means you utilize your brain. You look at what is benefit, what's the negative side, cons and pros. You look at, ask wise people who have long experience. And then after that, you go to istikhara. Oh Allah, I did my best. If this is the right decision, put barakah in it. If not, take away from, push it away from me, or push me away from it. Then we talk about marriage contract. We talk about wali and the role of wali, protection, not controlling. We talk about the witnesses. We talk about the wedding. We talk about the conditions. Islam is open the door for any conditions unless it's contradict with Sharia. We talk about that wali is very important. Why it is, we talk to all my daughters and sisters, your parents, no one will love you in this dunya more than your parents. So if they don't agree with you in the first time, that does not mean they don't want your happiness. They have more experience than you. But if some parents refusing with no reasonable, then now seek help straight away. Come to the local imam, seek advice from some religious people. They will help you in that. We talk about we talk about the wedding and intimacy. Talk about the mahar. Should not be very expensive as norms and traditions, not also very low. In the middle, we talk about the wedding. Don't start your marriage with debt. Some people, they rent a very expensive hall and a lot of expending in the one night and then start their debt. That will not put barakah in your marriage. We talk after that about the first year of marriage. We said this is the most important year. If you pass that year with good, then probably your marriage will be successful. Lower your expectation. Don't compare. Don't think the marriage is just what you look at Netflix or movies. This is real life. We are human beings. We'll find each other in moody, hungry, angry, tired, pregnant, the woman. That's the real life. So lower the expectation. Try to understand each other. Try to learn the art of argument. And try in that first year to compromise. Marriage is all about وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. About I will compromise, she will compromise, I will sacrifice, she will sacrifice. Not about rights and responsibilities. We talk about also parenting and the art of parenting. We go through Surah Luqman in a bit details. Especially the gap generation nowadays. This generation need different to understand them more, to come to their world, then to understand them is very important. We talk about after that also conflict. If there is a conflict between spouses, how we deal with that. Keep it secret between you. Try your best. If not, then you can seek counseling. If not, then you can inform your parents. They will send to arbitrators. If not, then talaq or divorce could be the best decision. We said that talaq could be the best decision, but if it's the final stage, not the first stage. We talk about also 3 ways of separation in family. Sometimes from the man's side, that's called talaq. Sometimes from the woman's side, she doesn't want to continue. There's no harm from husband, just she feels there's no compatibility. That's khula'. She will give some money for that to her husband. We talk about fisq, where the husband abuse his wife, and she will go to Islamic counseling, and if they investigate and they found the proof for abusing all this, then they have authority to give the divorce. We talk about Surah Al-Talaq. We explain the talaq in details, the iddah, waiting period after that, and all of this. This may be mainly the main topics we talk about in this series. Finally, either whether you are married or not, whether you are have children or not, this series for anyone just to educate himself or to have advice or to give to someone, maybe help him or her in this. And in the end of the day, the most important is marriage is just a ibadah. Divorce is a ibadah. All this we talk about a part of our ibadah in our deen. We don't talk about norms and traditions here. We said also that for the children, we emphasize in this series for all my daughters and sisters that when Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala bless you with your first child, this is very important moment. Allah give the woman the most important role in this life, which is raising a human being. That means you should, my sister, my daughter, prioritize children over your careers and jobs. You will not regret about that. I always advise my daughters and sisters, if you have your first child, try to pause from your work. The first few years, your children need you, and no one can replace you. And we said also that children need our presence for all men. For those men who always work outside, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, their children, they don't see them, that's a big problem. Your children need your presence, especially in this country. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala give every man here which is not married a pious woman, and give every woman not married a pious man. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala place love and mercy upon everyone who is married here, and give him or her a pious children. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala make us among those يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه والله أعلم. So we'll receive your questions, inshallah, about any thing we missed to cover maybe, or any misconception or any question. Yes?
When a man is giving a divorce, does it count if he's texted it 3 times, or does he have to say it verbally?
If the man wants to divorce his wife and he texts her in WhatsApp message, that account, or he should give it verbal? No, that's account. If you text her and she know that this text is usually you text her in WhatsApp, that count. We just need 2 witnesses.
So if there's no witness,
it count, but it's highly recommended for witnesses. So if they text her, that count. But after that count now, text also to another people. Say to them that I divorced my wife. Yes.
So, Sheikh, let's say like you're getting married to someone, and everything is done like everyone said yes, and like nowadays it's so easy to communicate like WhatsApp and chat, etc. So what's the rulings on that? Can you maybe send messages? Can you chat to one another?
You are in which stage now? You just know each other?
After maybe the yes, like you're getting married maybe next month, 2 months, whatever.
And your parents know about this?
Yes.
Okay. So your engagement is already there? Okay, so they said if the sister and brother, and they know each other, they knock the door, they inform their families, they did the engagement, the khitbah, and the marriage is just 2 months, maybe after 2 months, can they text each other? Yes, they can text each other for something related to the marriage, because they prepare for marriage, and the 2 families knows about this. But again, you are not husband and wife. So that's private things in message, text, no. But anything related to preparation, yes, you can. Yes. Not extra thing. He knock the door, the families know everything, the marriage is after 2 months.
so easy to do anything when you are just
No, they just prepare for... haram is very easy. Haram is very easy. So if someone knock your door and come from the door and did engagement, you have to give him some trust.
That's why in our culture, I told you, we do aqad nikah. So
No,
when this happens, then it's okay.
not necessary.
We avoid the.
That's good. But if the text is just about marriage and the families knows that, there's no problem here. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Yes.
I have two questions.
La ilaha. Okay, does she accept to contribute? Does the wife accept to contribute or not? Does she want to contribute or not? Okay. He said, what question is if the wife is so rich, so more wealthy than the husband, okay, she doesn't need any accommodation or she can afford this. Okay, now, in Sharia, the default, Sharia doesn't ask wife to contribute anything it's obligatory. However, marriage is all about agreement. It's all about compromise. It's about to live together. So if the wife now want to contribute, that's definitely better. If both of them are work and they want to share that expenses, there's no problem with that. But I would say to any man, if you can afford, if you can bring all the spending, that will be always better. The more respect you will gain, the more you are independent in that. But always there's exceptions. If they want to share the expenses, there's no problem with that in Sharia. Zawaj is all about agreements. All about agreements. And I say to my daughters and sisters, if you share that, especially if both of you are struggle, that definitely good decision. And that show a lot of maturity here. Yes?
Second question. I have two questions. The second one about the trust between wife and husband. Is it to the extent that they have to know each other the password or PIN code of their mobile phone, for example? To what extent you mean trust?
Okay, the question is about the trust between spouses. Do they have to know the password of each other, the password of mobile phone, the password of other devices? That's again according to their agreements. I would say if there's a trust, sometimes there's no need for passport, or passport is obvious, every one of them will share with each other. Let us focus on the principle or the concept, trust. We should build that trust. If we reach a status that every one of us skeptical and I don't know what's that, I have a condition, you have to show me your password, that means a lack of trust. That means a lack of trust. And when there a lack of trust come to the family, that's the beginning of collapse. Can they share password? Absolutely yes. But don't ask as a condition, because that sometimes send a message of lack of trust. Yes.
There's a question from sisters. A husband has given the wife one talaq. Now he sleeps in a separate room in the same house. Is this acceptable in Islam? And what are the wife's duties and how long is the iddah?
So this is a question from sisters. A sister asked if the husband give the divorce for his wife and then he live in the same house but in separate room. Is that permissible? Yes, that's permissible, absolutely. It's very reasonable. Because if they give a divorce and they still live in separate room, absolutely, that's right. So when he give a divorce, they should start iddah, and according to her status, if he return her in that iddah, that became spouse again, and we count one talaq. If the iddah finish without return, then the wife should go to her family. They are not spouse anymore. They can get married again if with a new marriage contract, a new dowry, with her permission, etc. Married. That's fine. No problem. Yes.
I know of some cases where people get married, but they're from two different cities or two different countries or whatever. Would you recommend people to get married if they're only living together part-time? So maybe like some weeks together, some weeks apart, or some days in a week together, some days a week apart?
What if two spouses, they decide to get married, brother and sister decide to get married, and they, in some circumstances, they live in separate cities, so they just see each other few weeks together, live together, a few weeks separate. Is that permissible? Yes, that's permissible, but should be temporary, not sometimes because of exceptions. Maybe she is in her last year in university, or he is, any circumstances. If it's temporary, that's fine, but should be not something permanent. Yes. How to find a balance to be a qawwam and controlling? Very easy. Qawwama is not controlling. Qawwama is just a heavy responsibility. You are the protector, you are the provider for the family. After the shura, if there is final decision, then it's your decision. But it's not related to control at all. Because marriage all is ibadah. Allah is watching you. It's not about your wife, it's not about your in-laws. It's about that Allah is watching you and He tests you in that marriage. This is ibadah. Do your best. Fear Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Try to be just. Try to be caring. Try to show caring, show mercy, show responsibility, etc. Bismillah. Yes, Omar.
Sheikh, are there any surahs or du'as that one can read during pregnancy? For example, Surah Maryam or Easy?
Is there any dua or surah that a woman can, this is a question from sisters, is there any dua or certain surah the woman can read during the pregnancy? In Sunnah, there is no specific dua or surahs. But some scholars emphasize Surah Maryam. And that makes sense because Maryam in that surah went through pregnancy, went through very hard moment. So Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, so if she recites Surah Maryam, no problem. All the Quran is barakah. If she recite all the dua of karb. Karb means if you are in serious struggle. If she repeat La ilaha illa ant subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin, or La ilaha illa Allah al-azim al-halim, La ilaha illa Allah rabbul arsh al-azim, La ilaha illa Allah rabbus samawati wa rabbul arsh al-karim, or Allahu rabbi la ushriku bihi shay'a, or Ya hayyu ya qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith aslih li sha'ni kullahu wa la takilni ila nafsi tarfat ayn. Or if she repeat La hawla wa la quwwata illa many times, all that works because pregnancy is not easy. Wahnan ala wahn. Allah mentioned weaknesses upon weaknesses. Yes, Shaheen.
Anything in the religion with a 90 days physical separation. So 3 months physical separation is something like this lead to permanent separation or something like that.
Wait a minute. Physical?
Say, where somewhere in the seerah that, not the seerah, but on the advice of Hafsa, he actually decided the soldiers, the maximum they can stay away from
4 months.
3 months.
4 months, yeah.
Is it the
What's the question here?
Is it a physical limitation nowadays?
Okay. Can the husband and wife separate for 4 months for some reason? Yes. There's a limit for separation. Not in Umar, in Quran itself. Quran itself gives a maximum limit of separation 4 months. Allah called ila للذين يؤلون من نسائهم تربص 4 أشهر. Means husband is very angry of something and he swear he will never come to the house or never sleep in that bedroom, for example, that bedroom. So Allah said, okay, you have a limit maximum for 4 months. When you reach 4 months, you have 2 options. Either you give the divorce or you turn back. Otherwise, you are a sinful فإن فاءوا, if they return, فإن الله غفور رحيم. Allah is the most merciful. وإن عزموا الطلاق, if they decide the divorce, فإن الله سميع عليم. Allah is all hearing, all knowing. So Umar took from this ayah. Yes.
Going back to the question about disagreement between husband and wife.
Bismillah.
So if you use an example of husband being Qawama and he's trying to protect his wife from something Islamically, or wants to guide the family one way, but the wife doesn't agree, should he just look the other way and let her continue, or should he make it emphasize
Protect her from something haram or something what?
could be haram? He wants to guide the family or her in a better direction in life, maybe difficult circumstances or something in the workplace.
If the husband and wife, they are in, the husband want to protect his wife from something either haram or something can harm her or something not, you see, not good for her in workplace, maybe in any. Okay, we said before that the default is husband and wife should always know that this is ibadah. Allah is watching you. Before your spouse is watching you, Allah is watching you. So fear Allah and do always something permissible. It's a duty of the husband to protect the family from anything against Allah Ta'ala. Anything haram, this is a duty of them. If you love your family, you will protect them from any haram. That's sign of love. But the only thing here is be gentle and kind. Human being, if you want them to accept this decision, you have to be gentle. Allah said about the Prophet ﷺ, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. He said to the Prophet, if you are harsh, the companions will never listen to you. The problem is always what I see in my life, it's about how we treat this with harshness. But if we show that this strictness is out of love, then that high possibility everyone will listen to us. If that doesn't work, then you need to remind the wife that you are the protector and we are here to please Allah Ta'ala, not to please people or norms or traditions or etc. Yes.
There's a few questions about adopting children and whether adopted children are mahram or not.
So some sisters ask about adopting children. If adopting children, very sensitive topic. There's many orphans nowadays from all these wars and these trials around the world. The best way for adopting is to find a children they just before the age of 2 years old. That is the best way. Then you breastfeed that child, and the child became mahram for all the family. And he grow up with you because you are his family now, in breastfeeding. That's the best way. Okay, what if there's a lot of Muslim orphans nowadays, and we're afraid if they go to non-Muslim families, they will change their religion, they will grow up against Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So some families, they realize this responsibility they want. Okay, in this, that's good intention here. And if that, you can adopt here, but there's some rules, depend to every family. If you decide to do that, come to someone knowledgeable and ask specific questions. There's a lot of details here. I don't want to go through it, yeah. Yes? Question is, he said if the divorce is already done and the husband and wife want to return back to each other, he heard first that some people said they can return with a new marriage contract, with a new dowry. Some people said they can marry each other again with one condition: if the wife is married with someone else, the consummation, and then after divorce she can return to her husband. There's no contradiction here. It's just you talk about two situations. We said before that if the husband divorces his wife for the first time or the second time and the iddah finish, they are now no longer husband and wife. If they want to return to each other, they can, with a new contract, a new dowry, with the permission of the wife. That's one situation. The second situation, if the husband divorced the wife for the third time, which is the last chance, and the iddah finish, he can't marry her unless she married someone else, consummate, and then after divorce they can return. So it's just different, separate situation. Yes.
Someone asked that a husband might be very upset with his wife.
A question from sisters. Sisters said some husbands, they are very angry or very upset with their wives when the wives are pregnant. Okay, I just want to give advice for other men. We have to understand the status of pregnancy. Allah Almighty said, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. He talk about pregnancy, that it is a lot of tiredness, weaknesses, burden. The mother went through a lot of difficulties through pregnancy. So if the first thing the husband should know, this is something very big. You have to realize that. You have to expect a lot of hormonal changes, that the mood of your wife will change during the day many times. That's very normal because of a pregnancy. Don't become angry or upset. You just have to understand. Allah emphasized that in Quran. Especially the first 3 months in pregnancy and the last 3 months in pregnancy are very critical. If you don't know, you have to educate yourself. And when she gives birth also, that's another stage also. So you have to always take care of you have to support her emotionally. That's where the qawama now. Qawama is a responsibility. May Allah Ta'ala guide us. And when you see that, you remember your mother. You never remember what your parents did to you, especially mom, till you see your wife pregnant. Then you realize that one day you were in the womb of your mother and she went through a lot of difficulties. And the case is, these difficulties our mothers went through, they are very happy because they want that child. But when we grow up, we don't respect our parents in that way. We try to serve them, but not with love, just as a duty. But they will take care of us when we are children out of love. May Allah forgive our parents. Yes. The question is about the conflict between the wife and her mother-in-law, and what's the role of husband. We talk about this many times in this series. This needs a lot of wisdom. But the main thing is we have to know that Allah Ta'ala told us to respect our parents, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and also told us to be fair with our wives. So we have to balance between your wife and your mother. That balance needs a lot of wisdom. Number one, you have to know it's normal. It's not something new. So you have to expect that. Number two, you have to know that you deal with two women. Women, a lot of emotions. So when they talk about one incident, they will make a whole story with a lot of emotions. You have to know what is in between lines here. That's very important to understand the nature of woman. Number 3 is when you listen to one of them, don't transfer what you listen to the other party. Don't do that. That's not wisdom. Just listen and try to say, oh, I'm with you, I will try to do my best. But try to set some boundaries. Okay, mom, I love you so much. I'll be always your child that you know. You always number one. No one can replace. However, my mom, if you love me so much, if you want so just this is your daughter. She have life experience. She came here to learn from you. Let her have some space. And slowly she will learn something like this. Say to your wife also, you know, my mother doesn't mean this. She just loved me so much, so she thought that someone else will take her son from her. So you should understand her emotions here. She doesn't mean it. I want you to try to be the one who tolerant here. Try to do your best. If someone, for my sisters and daughters, if the husband is always care about his mother, that's a good sign. That's a good sign he will take care of you. And the husband also, balance is always very important here. There's a lot of issues here, but this is, just ask someone wise. We don't want to tackle the details. Yeah. Amr? Okay, this is a question from one of sisters. She said, Sheikh, can you advise brothers to stick with their first wife and don't think about second marriage? And to strengthen the first marriage is better than looking for second wife. Okay, this is very, very good question. Very difficult question. Okay, number 1, we know in Islam that the man is permissible for him to marry up to 4 wives, but with one condition, with fairness or justice. And that's not easy condition. I'll say first, if you think about the second wife, if that will damage your first family, then why you want to damage your first family to build another house? That's not wise decision here. So think about this. But if there is exception and you can manage 2 houses, yes, but I will tell my sister who asked this question, usually those men who talk a lot about second wife, they will never do it. If they say it always loudly, so make sure they will never do it. But those people who are always silent, those are dangerous. So if your husband is always talk about, alhamdulillah, it's a good sign. Because this is just the favorite topic for the men. They always want to talk about the second marriage. But rare they do it. For some people, they thought that second marriage is second wife. I have to do it. This is sunnah. This is, if I don't do it, there's a lack of spirituality. That's all wrong. It's permissible. But to say this is sunnah, that's khilaf. That's a disagreement between the scholars. I support the opinion that it's not preferable. It's just permissible. And there's a lot of evidence upon that. Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala, when He talk about this, He talk about after. He didn't talk about in the beginning of any ayah. He say, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. There's something before that. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he stayed with Khadija, the first wife, for 25 years. He never take second wife with Khadija until Khadija radiallahu anha passed away. till he reached the age of 53 years old. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And after that for many wisdoms, because he is Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So in this time, always this issue is depend to the norms also and the traditions among the society. In this country, for example, this is very difficult. So, and the problem is when you have a difficult in your first marriage and you think about second marriage. Fix your first marriage first. Try to bring sakina, to wisdom to it. But you don't fix the first one and think about the second. That's a big problem here. So the last thing we have to, for the men also, that you understand that when the woman always don't like this topic or hate this topic, that doesn't mean they don't like the commands of Allah at all. That's just the nature of any woman on the earth. No woman on the earth like the second wife. That's the nature of woman. Even the Sahabiyat, the Fatima radiallahu anha, when the Ali in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim want to get a second wife. And that's normal that time. That time everyone has second wife. It's a normal in the tradition Medina that time in Mecca. However, Fatima can't live with that. She was very upset and came to the Prophet ﷺ, I can't live with second wife, I'm so jealous. And Rasulullah ﷺ was with her and said, oh Ali, if you want to. So he said some words, and then the Ali, he stopped that decision and he never takes second wife till Fatima radiallahu anha passed away. So this is normal. Don't say, oh, this, you are religious. Why you against this? It's not about religiosity. It's about the nature of woman. Very simple. So if you are happy with the first marriage and your wife is so jealous and will make a lot of problems, why you look for problems? Just stay with your wife. And the strange thing is those men who are unmarried, still single, they talk, mashallah, with a lot of enthusiasm about the second wife. They don't have one wife. Okay. Allah Alam. Yes. What can men do practically to look for a wife? There's no, and the woman, there's no practical programs. Okay, that's a good question because we need here in Britain to have some programs about this. There's some apps nowadays, Islamic apps try to do this. There's some masajid, they do some gathering for this for men and women with the wali of the woman. There's some imams, they do some matchmaking like me, only for the people in Manchester. That's a message for those who watch us in YouTube. Only for people in Manchester. So for matchmaking, there is a need definitely. If you need, just come to me after the lesson, inshallah. No, I'm married. You're married, alhamdulillah. Stay with your wife. Okay. If any one young man or woman in this mosque attend this series, I will give you a bonus. Come to me, please, privately, and give me your CV marriage. I am serious. Give me your CV marriage. I have several CV marriages here from my female and male students. I'll try to make some matchmaking, inshallah. Yes. We talk about this in the series. He said, if the woman make a condition in the marriage contract for the men, don't marry second wife, and the man agree with that, is that a valid condition or not? That's also a very famous issue in fiqh, this agreement between scholars. Majority of scholars said this is invalid condition because it's contradict with the permissibility that Allah gave to the men. Some scholars say no, there's no contradiction here. Because the contradiction come if the whole men in the earth, the whole woman in the earth make this condition. that's contradiction with that. But if a certain woman, so and so, she said, I'm very jealous, I can't live with a second wife, I need this condition. If you accept, Bismillah, if you don't accept, go. Then the man accept. These scholars said, then that man should fulfill that promise. And if he did and marry a second wife, then the woman has a permission to divorce herself without the permission. Yes?
What is a healthy and Islamic way for a wife to manage and control her jealousy? If she's jealous of her husband, for example.
Jealous of the husband for the second wife.
No. Like she might have doubts, or she might think that he's speaking to someone else, etc. Stuff like that. So how do you manage that healthy?
There's a question from sisters that she said, if the sister always have doubts in her heart that my husband talk to someone else or meet someone else, how can I manage that? Okay, if the doubts have no evidence or proof, sometimes just from shaitan. Because shaitan love always to separate between spouses. If there is proof, there's something else. You have to speak with him gently, kindly, sit together in a good mood and then discuss this. But if just, sister, if just doubts with no proofs, then just try to rely on Allah and ask Him to fill your heart with certainty, with all of these things. If your husband is good for you, is best for you, it's just a doubt, then if your relationship is very good, you can ask him frankly. May Allah Ta'ala fill your heart with sakina. Yes. A question from a brother. He said there's two opinions about divorce. If the husband give divorce in 3 times in one sitting, is it counting 3 times or counting 1? Okay, you know the disagreement already. So you know that for the 4 madhahib, the Hanafi, the Maliki, the Shafi'i, the Hanbali, all of them, 3 divorce in one sitting count 3. And the marriage is finished. For some scholars in the past, and the famous one here, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, he wrote, and he went to the prison because of this fatwa. And nowadays, majority of court in Islamic, at least in Arab countries, majority of courts, they went with the Ibn Taymiyyah opinion. They count 3 as 1. Why? Because of the divorce become now very dominant in every place. Everyone, divorce become easy for the men. So they said, we want to protect this. According to Maqasid al-Sharia, we'll go through this minor opinion because of that wide spreading of divorce nowadays. Which is better, I would say, anyone who in that situation, don't take the fatwa from Sheikh Google or ChatGPT or TikTok. Just come for someone knowledgeable and say to him what happened exactly. And every situation has a certain fatwa. So there's a difference between hukum and fatwa. Hukum, what we teach in public. There's 2 opinions. But if that happened, everyone should seek fatwa. Means come to one knowledgeable and ask him about that specifically. Yes. But I'm just emphasize this big problem here for any people to take the fatwa from divorce from internet. Please. Dangerous. Let me give you example. For example, if a husband is very angry and they say, you are divorced 3 times, 4 times. For the all madhahib, they'll differentiate between intention. Did he say that, repeat it as emphasis, and he intend only one? or he say three times in intention of 3 times. Sometimes you don't read this in the Google fatwa, so you take fatwa Bismillah. But when you come to some knowledgeable people, he will ask you about what's the situation first, and how's your status first, and how many times, a lot of questions. So please, any couples who are in the divorce situation, go and ask some knowledgeable people about this. Don't take fatwa from Google. Yes?
Marriage Act 1985.
Sorry?
Marriage Act 19 in the UK. It's called Marriage Act 1985.
Marry?
Marriage Act 1985. In UK, there is a law.
Marriage Act 1985.
There is a law.
Okay.
Where the financials are distributed in certain.
Okay.
They should.
Next question. That's very sensitive question. We talk about that general in series. I'm just afraid about some people that will misunderstand or. Yes. You have 2 minutes, guys. Yes.
Sheikh, you said if the talaq happens 3 times, then the woman has to get married to another man, and then that marriage ends, and then you could. Let's say the first talaq happens, but you take her back. Second happens, you take her back again. Then the third one happens, and the marriage ends. Does that count as third talaq? She needs to get married again.
Yes, of course.
But the talaq didn't happen the first time. It started, but it didn't actually happen at the end.
No, because the third one, there's no return. For the third talaq, once he say the divorce third time, خلاص. الطلاق مرتان. The third one is not applied to the third one, finish. Good question. The question is, if the husband give the divorce for the first time, and then he return his wife in iddah, and then he give divorce the second time, and he return her in iddah, and then he give divorce for the third time, does he have any authority to return her? No. Once he said the divorce third time, finish, no return.
In that situation, does she have to get married now again?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What if the first divorce, the iddah period ends and they get married again with a new contract? Now, under the new contract, does it reset or?
Very good. That's 2 opinions. If that happened, also ask the Mufti. Because it's 2 opinions. Is it reset or counting? Many of them is counting. Yes?
The question is somebody else. If one of the spouse, they do not offer their obligatory acts, salah or siyam, does the marriage remain?
If 2 spouses come together and they are Muslims, after a while one of the spouses stop fasting or stop praying, is the marriage still valid? Okay, number 1, depend to the reason that spouse stop. If the reason is, he said or she said, I don't believe that fasting is obligatory. I don't believe that prayer is obligatory. If that's the case, no, marriage here is now stopped, not valid. Because that's something big. That means the spouse deny what is necessary every Muslim know. However, if one of them stop praying or stop fasting, a'udhu billah, they admit it's obligatory, they witness La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, but out of laziness and desire they stop. They're still Muslims. They can carry their marriage. It depends on the situation. But it's not necessary to separate. No at all. But in that situation, I will say, use the wisdom. Treat your spouse as someone patient, someone sick, spiritually. Try to give them da'wah. Try to be the best da'i for them. Try to bring them back to pray or to fast. If you do that, you'll have a great reward in that. We should always think about we are the da'is, where someone call people to Allah, not judge. Okay, last question, Omar, last one.
Sheikh, are there any du'as or prophetic
Food.
foods or du'as that can help
Food. Okay.
Quran and du'as that can help a couple have children?
Is there any specific dua or food for prophetic food for spouse to have children? I don't know. I don't know any prophetic food or dua. But all the prophetic food is barakah, definitely. And I just want to say to this couple, Allah tested you. We are here to worship Allah, not to bring children. This is secondary. The main purpose for this life is to worship Allah. Sometimes Allah tested us with children for many years, and He gave them after a while, like He did with Ibrahim, with Zakaria. And sometimes He tested us with no children, as He said, وَيَجْعَلُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ عَقِيمًا. And that's all test. The most important is to live this life when Allah pleased with you. Whether you are single, you are married, you have children, not have children, that's all test in this life. The main purpose is pleasing Allah.